Welcome to the Filmistines, the double feature podcast. Join us as we unravel the interwoven experience of the continuous conversation of cinema. Take part in pairing movies with their cursed counterparts, movies that share DNA, or even pairing questionable duos by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/filmistines. We offer tiers at the $1, $5, and $20 level. For the $5 tier, grant the ability to request films to further the discussion. So grab some popcorn, sit back, and get ready to join the 100-year conversation. This is the Filmistines, where movies are more than just entertainment, they're an experience. And welcome back to another episode of the Filmistines. Thank you guys for joining us today. Today I'm joined by my bad friend, Lucy.
Hello, everyone.
You can join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for brand new episodes of the Filmistines. Some recent episodes include The Outsiders, The Warriors, Godzilla x Kong, 2005's King Kong, and 21 Jump Street. Remember to leave nice comments, thoughts, and ideas over on our Patreon. Leave nice reviews at Apple Podcasts. Come right in. Come subscribe for $1, $5, $100. Going once. We appreciate all the support. Thank you guys very much.
Are you stressed and filled with anxiety like I am? Maybe in a bit of pain from that car accident you had a few years ago? Well, the sponsor of today's episode, Hempville CBD, has us covered. They have the highest quality products created by chemists and doctors. Hempville carries everything from CBD to THC dispensary grade without those despicable dispensary prices. Order your Delta 8, 9 edibles and vapes along with the THCA flower and get free shipping when you spend $50 or more at HempvilleCBD.com. Check out the link in the description for more details.
But today we're discussing Greg Mottola's 2007 seminal film, Superbad. Iconic to the time. Was it our American Pie? Our generation? Maybe. But I wanted to say right off the top that this movie is sort of annoying. I don't love it. This is the dawn of Seth Rogen, and it does very little for me. There is a lot I like about this movie, but it comes together in a mostly obnoxious way. But before I say too much, I know you've never seen this. It's sort of iconic to our class, so I'm very curious, how do you feel about Superbad in 2024?
Let me start off by saying, I don't think this movie is our time. This movie came out in 2007. We were like in 5th grade in 2007. So this movie wasn't for the kids who were bad, who shouldn't have been watching the things they were watching in elementary school, the kids that just had way too much freedom and freaky minds. I don't know. That wasn't me. I wasn't coddled by my parents because I totally had the freedom to do whatever I wanted. I don't think my parents would have given a crap, but I guess I coddled myself. Maybe I was a little naive, maybe even prude, but I was in elementary school, so that's okay. You know, it's not like I'm a 30-year-old and I'm still that way. It's like, no, I was into my books. I was into my toys. So I never had any interest in watching a movie like this. So I don't think it's for our generation per se. I don't know if I'm the outlier or if the kids who watch this were the outliers. But okay, I wasn't too far from middle school, which I think you shouldn't have still been watching this. I don't know, maybe. I don't know. Middle school is when you start at least learning about these kinds of things and cussing and, you start noticing the other gender and whatnot. So it's not too bad of a time. But I think these movies hit home with the high schoolers of this time, for sure, because they're in, I hate to say it, but they're in their position. They're in Seth and Evan's position. So I don't know. I think we're like maybe 10 years behind this movie. I don't know, but that's just my thoughts. But as far as the movie goes, it was a very low okay. I didn't want to turn it off, but it was just okay. Oh, all right. This is Superbad. This is the movie that people talk about. Here's McLovin. All right.
Now you know what the t-shirt is all about.
Yes, now I know the t-shirt. And this is definitely not my type of humor. But there were some scenes that were very funny, and I'll admit that I laughed a good bit here throughout the movie,
There's a decent amount of situational comedy happening, so
which is definitely my type of humor. I also like that this movie is not exactly raunchy. It's like if teenagers watched a bunch of raunchy films and try to emulate that and try to, live like that. Like they watched a bunch of raunchy films and now that's what they want out of their lives. And this movie commits to that. And I appreciate that.
yeah, it's not nearly as raunchy as American Pie. Is there a point in the movie where you fell off? Because there is for me.
Yeah, I don't know if this is just the first act, but it's really up until McLovin gets put in the back of the police car and Seth and Evan go off with that weirdo who ran him over. After that, it just went way low for me.
It's funny how that's exactly when Seth Rogen also entered the film.
That is very funny because the cops were my least favorite part of this movie. I thought the cops were dumb, they were incompetent, and they were on the verge of cringy. And I don't know, have we discovered cringy humor by this time? Probably. I don't know when The Office really started, but this isn't Office cringy. This is just cringy.
Of course, cringe has been around since the dawn of time because there have always been groups of friends who think they're funnier than they actually are. They may be funny in their group, but they're projecting a certain amount of cringe.
True.
That I get that feeling a lot with Seth Rogen's work. It's very similar in feeling, not in tone and or how the movies kind of present themselves. But Adam Sandler movies are very similar in that way, where I'm just like, I am so out of the loop with these guys. Not that you need to know them, but I can't. These are not my guys. Yeah, I totally agree when Seth gets hit by the weirdo and when Fogel's in the liquor store, sweet talking cops. It's when the movie starts to fall apart, and it happens super quickly because of where our characters land. Fogel all of a sudden doesn't become that third wheel friend. He becomes a central part of the movie. And then our boys Seth and Evan,
It's like they become the B plot now.
yeah, they just fumble around until they end up at the party they were trying to go to. It's like, let me tell you one thing I really like about this movie, because it'll help make sense why the second and third act just completely fall apart for me. We have these two boys who are best friends to the point where they wake up, call each other until one goes to pick up the other before school, kind of thing, right? There's this intimacy that's established very quickly. They're sexually frustrated, one more explicit than the other. But as the movie rolls on with them two, especially in the first act, and then bits and pieces throughout the second and third, they almost feel so sexually pent up and frustrated that there's a real kind of homophobicness happening between them, where they're literally afraid that if they're under the right conditions with each other, that they'll have sex with each other just to have that release. Like there's just this weird tension within them that they're afraid of. And so it makes this literally kind of homophobic, like they're afraid of their inner sexual desires and what that can lead to, because they want, he wants Jules, he wants Becca, but there's an air of kind of funny subtext underneath that, and makes for a fun high school bromance. And then we get Fogel, who is clearly the third wheel. He's so unpopular that his own friends don't even like him. And we get this good setup that they become a really central piece to the party that they were just invited to, which builds this sense of kind of normalcy, even with these guys. Like they're not as lame as they think they are. They feel super lame, and that things aren't going exactly how they want to, because we even have Becca, who's very much into Evan, but Evan's that kind of guy who just doesn't see it at all. Everyone's known someone like that, where someone will be into someone else and they just don't see it, and everyone else knows it's very obvious. Almost like they're blinded by things not going exactly how they've envisioned 1,000 times every single day. And so when something naturally happens, when something happens in real life, it's something they would have never expected to happen. So I mean, foreign to them because they're just so, calculated. They have the plan together, right? I like that. I like Seth and Evan's relationship and what they do with each other. It's really fun and kind of cartoonish. And I like what you said about it not being very raunchy, because it's really not very raunchy except in their heads. There's just a weird, fun underlying element of sex, while at the same time Seth is very explicit and vulgar. And also there's that homoerotic thing happening within Seth of him drawing all those dicks. It's just like, this is so absurd, but we've also always known someone who does something like that. Draws those stupid little S's, draws dicks on stuff, draws boobs on everything, And it also captures that urgency and severity of being a virgin and losing your virginity and having sex in high school. Like how important that is to some people, in the first act, at least. And then Fogel becomes the main character. And then Seth, the cops become more important than our boys. What happened to the coming of age buddy film? What happened to kind of unfolding what happens when you live a little bit more in the present and stop planning this shit out, Jules likes hanging out with you, Seth. Becca obviously would marry your ass right now, Evan. So investigating that a little bit more would have been very, very welcome, because the cops completely murder this film, really. That B turn A plot does. You feel what I'm smoking?
Yeah, they definitely had something good there with the first act, and then maybe they didn't know how they were going to get them to the party. We've all seen this movie. They need to get to somewhere, but these are stupid, awkward boys that need to fumble around for a little bit before they go to the party, which is fine. We love that. We love that shit. But they really didn't know what to do with it, which is sad, because Fogel's character, I really like him. He's kind of weird and clearly very stupid. Like you said, no one likes him, not even his friends. He's a good character. He might arguably be my favorite character here, but we don't really do anything with him. His setup is awesome. McLovin's probably the most iconic thing to this film.
Easily, yeah.
Easily. And we dropped the ball. I don't know if they felt like they needed to insert a parental figure in this kind of film. Although these cops were clearly not parental figures, but at the end they were trying to teach him that parents are cool and cops are cool, and
they stole the show. I hated that. It's like, this is not your movie.
Exactly.
This is supposedly semi-autobiographical, involving Seth, Rogen, and friends. But how are you going to steal your own story?
And see, here's what I think happened. Based off my very little research of this movie, Seth Rogen and friend had this idea to start the screenplay when they were very young, like 13. But it took forever for them to get this into an actual script, and I'm guessing all the bells and whistles behind something like this, that he outgrew the role, because he was supposed to play Seth. He was supposed to be in this movie. He was going to play himself, but then he got too old. How do you compromise with that? I guess you turn him into a cop and let him be in the film.
You hijack your own fucking movie.
You hijack your own fucking movie.
That's not... I mean, it's something, man. I don't know, man. It's so bad. They captured something hyper specific, highly relatable, and frankly, truly insightful about putting yourself out there a little bit more, being a little more present as a youngin'. Don't be stuck in your head so much. And then here come Bill Hader and Seth Rogen and their cruiser doing donuts, blowing shit up. It's like, this is not a balance situation. And then they have that little talk, like I think in the bedroom with Fogel, right? Right before he's about to get laid.
Yeah, that's when they're like, we just wanted to teach you.
It's like there's this like overt kind of moral lesson of the story that they're establishing. It's like, but how about the two main characters learn that and on their own
And we do learn that with the mall scene at the end that's like 1 minute long. But we give the cops, all this time, but at least we get something from them in that mall scene where they are okay with having their own adventures without each other.
And I will say the mall scene is the only scene that it lives with me. It's the scene I think about when I think about this movie, I will say.
Yeah, Fogel's story needed to be the B plot. He needed to be the comedic relief that we forget about for a split second because we're so involved in Seth and Evan's life. And then we come back to him and we're like, oh yeah, what shenanigans is he into now? Like, is he up to now?
And I'm with you. I like Fogel a lot. I like his look. His
cadence.
Cadence. He's uncomfortable.
Yes.
And hear me out. I think this would have been a great fix for Fogel's B plot because he's also one of these characters. Maybe less is more with him. Because what is Fogel up to? You know how we had that moment with Evan talking to Becca about how he goes to these clubs and has all this fun with his friends and stuff, yada yada, exaggerating, lying somewhat, right?
Somewhat.
Taking that trope with kids, high school, whatever, doesn't matter. Kids exaggerate and lie about what they do all the time. It's fine. But let Fogel be a continuous point of, questionability. Like, is he lying? Yeah, we drop in on him doing X, Y, and Z. He comes to tell his story. When he's telling the story, we then get, cinematic explanations of it. It's like, there's no way this actually happened, but he's got proof that it actually happened in the movie. When he's telling the story, it's just like, okay. It is just straight up the comic relief and this weird, almost C-plot type thing. Like, don't give us too much of Fogel at all. He's really just bringing the alcohol. Make his story feel like a lie, but maybe not.
And they do that in the first act. We're like, who's that kid that's getting a fake ID?
Yeah.
Where is he? They're looking for him. He's not showing up. He said, pick me up after work. Like, what? Now we gotta go pick this kid up? Like, he's so suspicious. And he's so weird looking and so just weird in general, really. That, we should have kept his adventure in the background. Or maybe, Seth and Evan are into some other shenanigans and we see Fogel in the background. Like, I don't know.
That would have been kind of funny.
Maybe him getting in the back of the cop car. Like, that's where that cop story went. And Seth Rogen, you can still arrest him if you want and have your 10-second airtime.
Yeah, letting the boys kind of craft their own story around what Fogel's up to.
Yeah.
And so just the imagination goes wild with, these kids, because that's what happens. I'm glad that we are on the same page with that because I was annoyed by how much the cops hijacked the story.
Yes, and I was also confused because I liked Fogel's character.
And you're like, I thought we had main characters.
And then I thought Seth and Evan, who are on the cover of the movie poster, were our main characters. So obviously there's pacing issues here in this movie. Everything went too long and it was basically unnecessary. On a brighter note, I did absolutely love the opening credit with Jonah Hill and Michael Cera dancing to the opening credits. They're like silhouettes are dancing and there's like all these colors and stuff. That was pretty awesome to watch.
Yes, I love it when movies have like super original fun with the opening credits. They make their own logo for whatever distribution house they're working for and stuff, and it's awesome. It's a great opening credits, no doubt.
Yeah, and we keep that same kind of color scheme and that same color palette throughout the whole movie. This kind of, I don't know, early 2000s vibe. So I like that. I like that we at least had some consistency here with that. I know in a lot of other movies, especially recently, it's kind of been a clash of the opening credit and the rest of the movie, or just a long ass opening credit like The Outsiders. I don't know. I guess it's Hate on the Outsiders week.
Movie kind of sucks,
Man, that's so sad. I'll also tell you my favorite part is probably when Seth is having all these like intrusive thoughts about how he's gonna steal the alcohol at the supermarket. And he has the one where he's like paying with an $80 bill, and one where that old lady was like, I'll get the alcohol for you. And then he has this whole like fighting sequence with the cop. That was good. I like that. I guess that's where some of that situational comedy plays in. And that was probably my favorite part.
Just another great example of them having fun with those intrusive thoughts, plotting this out. How is this going to go? Kids got it all figured out.
We should have had more of that. I could have seen him even having something similar here at that adult party. And then he lands on putting all the alcohol in the detergent bottles. But at least having some like sequence of his thoughts, like, oh shit, what am I going to do with this? It would have been perfect. I like how you said how this movie is very influential and it's a movie of its time, which makes me want to bring up the cast we had in this movie. And I don't know if this was everyone's maybe first or second film. I mean, they all look so young. Everyone from Jonah Hill to Emma Stone, even when the Franco brothers is in there, and he looks super young. And that's kind of nice to see all of them here, however many years later. And just how this movie really set their careers. Because then you have other movies that are very dumb and similar to this. Good or bad, I don't know. But you have Jonah Hill kind of transition into the 21 Jump Street films. Then you have Emma Stone transition into Easy A. And that's kind of what she's known for before La La Land, pretty much.
Yeah, she's been on a weird trajectory.
Yes.
It's kind of wild.
It's
Jonah Hill
crazy.
too, I think, because he was in Wolf of Wall Street.
That's true. And Don't Look Up. Yeah. So it's kind of awesome seeing how this movie influenced their careers into comedy and then into whatever they want now. Even Michael Cera was in the Barbie movie. How weird is that? And that other movie, Dream Scenario. Then you have Emma Stone in Poor Things. I mean, that's crazy, and I like that. I like seeing that.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about Michael Cera being in Dream Scenario. It's weird. The trajectories are always fun, no doubt. But Superbad is such a funny beginning because it's a loud movie. It's seminal in its own right, and it's not as good as people think it is.
Yes, but unfortunately, that's just of the time, We have all these people that really loved To Kill a Mockingbird when it came out, or the people who are big fans of The Exorcist, which I had not seen until last year. And I was like, wow, people were scared of this movie, but they were because of that time it was in. Something about this film really spoke to the teens of 2007. I don't know, it's weird. Some of these high school movies are weird for me. Like, that's what you were anxious about in high school, getting laid?
That's like the biggest cliche.
Yeah, but is that true? Like, take 21 Jump Street, a movie that's more of my high school time. That wasn't what we were focused on with these teens. So is that like things are changing? Is that, I don't know. I was not worried about getting laid in high school. I was worried about what I was going to get on my ACT.
There might be something to that, and I am of the mind that the border you are, the more sexual you are. When you have a more active mind and are being drawn into different things, you have more passions and stuff, I think you think less about sex. And you don't have a lot of passionate things when you're that young because you're still figuring yourself out. And that is the first passionate thing that every person hits at a young age in some way or another. Definitely more passionate for others, I guess. Some people have problems.
That's true.
So you might be onto something.
I was reading comments about how relatable this movie was when people watched this when they were, 15, 12, I don't know the ages people were throwing out there. Definitely 15s, 16s, and just talking about how relatable this is. And I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know how relatable this is. Spending the day with two cops just doesn't seem very desirable to me or relatable. I didn't want to steal alcohol. I was so freaking prude that I took my first sip of alcohol when I was 21. I mean, I'm lame as fuck, I guess. So not relatable at all.
Lame. People are probably honing in on Seth and Evan. They're honing in on the good parts of the movie. At least the first act and bits and pieces here and there. But yeah, you're right. What is the cop thing? Why is that so essential to the film?
And people like them. People like how funny the cops are.
I don't know. I can't. It's the Adam Sandler thing all over again. We lived through it. We're in a post-Seth Rogen world now. He's actually making good things. He's a good producer. He's a decent actor. We saw in The Fabelmans.
Oh, dude, I was very surprised how much I liked him in The Fabelmans.
Right?
And I was not mad at Donkey Kong in the Super Mario movie.
Absolutely. I was very on the fence about that, but after watching it, I was like, okay, for some reason I'm fine with all of these characters. But
except Anya Taylor-Joy, I don't know.
And I will say, shout out to Seth Rogen for getting the Donkey Kong rap in the movie. Apparently that was his doing. He begged for that.
Oh, all right, Seth Rogen, you get a few points. I also saw a few comments here or there saying how influential this movie was to their time because most of the popular teen movies they had seen were like Breakfast Club, Clueless, like all these movies where teens were rich or popular.
Did they explicitly say Breakfast Club?
Yes.
That's kind of the important part, that some of those kids are not rich or popular.
Yes.
And how...
That's the point of Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
That's the big letter at the end, explaining that.
Breakfast Club is awesome. Let's go ahead and say that.
I don't think they were hating on Breakfast Club. I just think they were talking about teen movies and how they weren't geared quite like this to the nerds, to the awkwards.
It's fair. Yeah, it's fair. That's fair. But I should say, Breakfast Club is timeless.
I don't know about timeless. The message is timeless. Is that what makes a movie timeless? What it's got to say?
Part of it. That's part of it, yeah.
Is this why 12 Angry Men is also timeless?
Of course. And 12 Angry Men is also very stylish in how it's shot.
Also true.
Pop quiz, why does 12 Angry Men suffer?
The music?
The fucking music.
Fucking music.
So bad.
I guess the last thing I have for you is just a little fun fact I saw, and I thought you might be interested. But originally, they weren't sure about Jonah Hill playing Seth. They thought he was maybe a little too old as well. And he ended up taking...
When have they ever thought about that? These guys in high school movies look like they're 40 years old all the time.
Yes.
Like, why did... all of a sudden...
And I don't think he looked too old here compared to, the Breakfast Club people.
Yeah.
The Breakfast Club teens. But he took a pay cut that was from 60,000 grand to 20,000 grand just to get the role, just to guarantee the role. Yeah.
I've heard that he has on occasion taking the minimum payment for acting, because I think he's union now, so I think the minimum's like $60,000 or $70,000. And I've heard that he's done that. I don't know how true. You guys have to fact check that, but it's nuts. He just wants to challenge and express himself. It's kind of really admirable.
That's pretty cool, because a lot of these people want the most they can possibly get paid and get rich and famous, and I thought that this was just because he was starting out. Like, this is his second, maybe third film, I don't know. So that makes sense to take a pay cut here or there. But now, if he's still doing that now, that's awesome.
I think there's a movie, man, I can't remember what it is, but I think there's a movie where he wanted someone on board with him and he took the pay cut to get them on board.
Dang. That's cool. Jonah Hill, man. I don't hate Jonah Hill.
Jonah Hill's great. I can't wait for... the next 10 years of Jonah Hill movies.
Yeah, I can't wait for his Poor Things, his dream scenario.
That'd be fun, yeah. All right, man. Well, thank you for watching this movie with me. It's been a long time coming. Thank you for talking about it here today.
You're welcome.
Do you have a budget guess for me today?
My budget guess is $10 million. The only thing I thought would get kind of costly would be all the cop shit. The cop car, the explosion, the vandalism, the stunts with the cops. But other than that, we didn't have too many sets. You know, we're just in a neighborhood. We're in some house parties. So I didn't think it was too much.
Yeah, that's fair. And it wasn't. It says here that it was 17.5 to 20 million.
Okay.
And that probably has a lot to do with Judd Apatow. He's, at this point, got some leverage after 40-year-old version and Knocked Up. So
That makes sense.
And it went on to make $171 million. So it
Ooh.
had that 10 multiplier, just about.
That's awesome.
That's very awesome.
Good job, Greg. I can't wait for this Letterboxd score. If it's above a 3.3, I'm out.
Well over on Letterboxd with 1.66 million. They weighed in at a 3.9.
No way.
You gonna have an aneurysm for me now?
Yes, I'll see you at the hospital.
Greater than King Kong.
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. That's it. I'm done.
If this movie was more committed, I wouldn't be mad at that. If it would have stuck to the greater message of Seth and Evan.
If the whole movie was like the first act, I wouldn't be too mad either. But it wasn't. It was the second and third act. That's too much. That's too much.
Well, thank you again, and thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Filmistines. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Remember, we post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday over on patreon.com/Filmistines, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Google Podcasts, RIP in pieces.
In pieces.
Remember to leave nice comments, thoughts, and ideas on our Patreon as well, and go rate us on Apple Podcasts.
5 stars, please.
Come request a movie. Come subscribe for $1. We appreciate all the support. But until next time, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Filmistines. Thanks for tuning in and joining us on our cinematic journey. We hope you enjoyed the discussion and gained some new insights and perspectives on the world of movies. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, especially Patreon at patreon.com/Filmistines. And follow us on social media for more film-related content. We love hearing from our listeners, so if you have any feedback, suggestions, movie recommendations, or book recommendations, please feel free to reach out to us. Until next time, keep watching and keep loving the magic of movies. This is the Filmistines, signing off.